Hey team, this training is called the Sales Conversation Roadmap, and here we're going to give you a repeatable, reliable way to lead sales conversations that convert to clients. Now, let's be honest. We're going to talk about sales conversations. For some people, maybe you, certainly me, early on, sales calls made me want to throw up. Literally, like sales calls make you want to vomit. There is so much pressure, there is sweating, there is fear, there's like, oh my God, I'm going to talk too much, I'm going to blow the sale, I'm going to look like an idiot, they're not going to like me, they're going to think I'm a moron. And of course, we're not going to generate the money, we're not going to make the sale, we're going to blow it up again, we're going to screw this up again. So after the sales conversation, you feel that you totally blew it, totally ruined another perfectly good opportunity. Now, remember earlier we were talking about one of my early verbal business cards where I said, I work with small business owners who love the work of the work and they just hate the sales part. Well, let me get this straight. So you love the work of your work, you just hate the sales part. I wonder if there's a nugget there that we can look at. All right, hold that thought. The problems when you've lost sight of the magic secret in this training is that in a sales conversation, you are tap dancing. You are tap dancing, you are winging it, you're doing the dog and pony show, or you get right into problem solving mode, you start doing free consulting, you lose control of the call, they start hammering you with questions, and now you're totally on the defensive, you don't get the vital information that you need to actually help them, and this is just terrible. But wait a second, you said that you like the work of your work. So you love the consulting, coaching, training, speaking, facilitation. Did you say that you love the work of your work? Well, I wondered what would happen if we reframed the sales conversation as delivery. And selling the work is just really the first delivery moment. So if you're really good at delivering what you do and doing what you do, you're probably also really great at sales and have just been doing the sales conversation all wrong up to this point. Because if sales isn't fun, you're actually doing it wrong. And my premise here, my theorem that we're about to prove together, is that sales can be as much fun as delivery. And I know you're thinking, wow, what a ridiculous statement. That's never been true for me. Newman, I think you might be off a little bit on the Fruit Loops ranch. And stick with me on this, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about, that sales is just the first delivery moment. And if you're great at delivering the work of your work, you should be great at selling it. Let's figure out why. So, Sales Conversation Roadmap. I want you to grab the Sales Conversation Roadmap. This is going to be your cheat sheet for every sales conversation or set of sales conversations that you ever embark on. And there's 3 overall parts. There is the open, there is refine, and there is advance. And so there are also 3 components in each of these 3 phases. Open is all about connect and lead and discover. Refine is about future pacing, probing and uncovering, and quantifying. And then advance is about you making some recommendations, troubleshooting and objection busting in advance, and then closing the deal or gaining commitment. So grab a copy of that right now. As we talk through it, we're going to walk through it. Let's get going. The open part. The open part is where we connect, and this is not about wasting time on nonsense like, hey, how's the weather? And hey, your sports teams are doing really great. Do not waste time on nonsense. There are a few relevant things you can say, and they are in your worksheet. And just the best way to honor a prospect's time, especially a high-level prospect, is to cut to the chase. Don't waste their time. Get right down to business. The second part of the opening is establishing ground rules and you asking for their explicit permission to control the flow and the content of the call. That's called leading the sales conversation or sales leadership. And then the most important part in the open phase is get them talking as soon as possible. Number 1, when they're talking, they're much more engaged. When you're not talking, there's no pressure on you. I've never heard of high pressure listening. Have you ever heard of high pressure listening? There's no such thing as high pressure listening. So as soon as you get them talking, you are now in diagnostic mode, and you're also in control of the conversation because the person who's asking the questions is in control of the conversation. I will leave you with one little final thought here that an early sales mentor of mine said to me, David, a prospect who's listening is not a prospect. I had to unpack that for a minute. A prospect who is listening is not a prospect. And I said, so prospects should be talking. He says, yeah, a prospect who is talking is a prospect. A prospect who's listening to you pitch or bloviate or talk features and benefits and how wonderful you are, that person's not a prospect. That person's disengaged, bored, and about to shut down. So please, my friends, remember, get them talking as soon as possible because a prospect who is listening is not a prospect. All right, second row, second part is refine. Future pacing is all about giving them the feeling of starting to work with you. And here's where you're collecting questions. Very important difference between collecting questions and answering questions. So let's pretend we're starting our work together. What would we tackle first? What questions would you want me to answer first? You're simply collecting the questions. You are not answering the questions or putting a Band-Aid on those problems. You're literally in question collection mode. The next part is probe and uncover. So you want to get the truth on the table as early and often as possible. Talk about urgency, talk about consequences, talk about fixing the problem versus not fixing the problem. And then to get value-based fees, we have to quantify. We have to quantify the value of the problem or the expense of the problem. You will always make more money as a consultant, coach, speaker, trainer if you're solving urgent, pervasive, expensive problems, but expensive according to them, not expensive according to you. So in the quantify box of questions, that's where you're establishing value in terms of hard numbers, dollars, hours, percentages, impact of the problem, impact of the solution, and so forth. Now, third piece of this, the advanced piece, is where you suggest possible paths forward. You suggest, there's a couple of different ways we could tackle this, and you give price ranges. The recommend phase, it's very important that we talk money, or at least money ranges, so that we don't go through an entire, months-long sales process, drop a price on them at the end, and they go, oh, that's far too much. Oh, that's not in the budget. That's not what we can possibly afford. So this is about bringing the money conversation much, much sooner, bringing it up much, much sooner than you might have in the past. Troubleshoot is one of my favorite sections. I mean, they're all my favorites, but troubleshoot is one of my very favorites because it's about preventing obstacles before they happen. So putting in the way is in the way. This helps you prevent getting blindsided and prepare for obstacles, or at least raise some red flags of things that might get in the way of closing the sale. And then the natural, organic, easy, comfortable, personable, friendly way to close the sale or gain commitment is closing questions in plain English. Not manipulative, not tricky, not salesy, not weird, but just plain English questions. Once you've done the other 8 areas of the sales conversation, the 9th one, most prospects will close themselves. Let me repeat that because it's kind of cool. Most prospects will, in fact, close themselves if you've done everything right in the previous 8 boxes. So, freestyle love supreme. My friends, do not parrot a sales script, ever. This is not a sales script, it's a framework. And it is open to interpretation and detours and nuance. And you'll see in the framework, there are questions like, and what else? And who else? And why else? And where else? Tell me more. Go on. Talk to me more about that. When did that start happening? So we're having a human-to-human conversation. And yes, you have a framework. And the framework is all about question, listen. Probe, listen. Ask, listen. And did I mention listening? We always listen our way into the sale. We never talk our way into the sale. We always listen our way into the sale, and prospects will always judge you far more on the questions that you ask than on the statements that you make. So the bumper sticker for this training, freestyle in the framework. Make it your own, embrace it, use it as a guide, use it as a roadmap, but then freestyle in the framework and really make it your own. All right, see you in the next training.